folks, how's it going? Sociopathic Otter here, and this ought to be a good one. Alright, so for some reason I thought a cutscene was going to trigger there, but I think I might be confusing this room with the next room. And indeed, I'm like 99% sure I am now. Yep, I predicted it. So this is the Underground Cemetery. Real pleasant name. And so this area is actually, whoa, that hitbox almost killed me. So this area is actually completely optional. You don't have to come here at all. But there is a nice little mini boss here, so I figured, hey, why not? And I got a nice little soul too. Summon Alaster, the familiar. What does that do exactly? Okay, so it just summons a sword. That's underwhelming, to say the least. Alright. This is, I think, the one place in the game, other than the weird room where you normally get the Jesus soul, that's in the inner quarters, that doesn't actually have music. I'm going to continue this kind of gothic atmosphere and come in here, because I think normally there's an item, or at the very least something worth... Okay, werewolf, that's not too shabby. Something worth piquing my curiosity, I was going to say, but I suppose when you're talking as you're satisfying your curiosity, your words tend to fail you. Okay, let's head right into the boss room. Not even on full HP, so, you know, very smart planning by me. Also, I forgot to talk about it because I was talking about the music, but this boss is totally Nightmare Fuel. So you could see the little guys just walking towards the boss room when the music thinned, and now, bam, it's just a pile of human bodies. I'd also like to talk about one kind of cool thing that this boss reminds me of. So there's a Symphony in the Night boss called Granfalloons, I think, which is supposed to be a reference to Kurt Vonnegut's Cat's Cradle, which is incidentally my favorite book. So within that book, I'll spare you guys the play-by-play recollection of Cat's Cradle, including the numerous literary analyses I've done for it, you know, for class or indeed for personal pleasure. But basically, there's this concept called a Granfalloon that Vonnegut puts in his fictional world, and so a Granfalloon is basically just a group that you belong to and have this metaphysical connection with. You may not even necessarily... Let's just make sure I don't die here. Great. You may not even necessarily have any human connection to those people, but you will absolutely be connected to them in some metaphysical way. And so, it's kind of interesting to see Symphony in the Night, not parody that, but I guess pay homage to that. And interesting still to see Aria of Sorrow also do that. So, since Cat's Cradle is my favorite book, I really wanted to elaborate on this concept and kind of establish just how cool it is that Legion actually mirrors Granfalloons, which mirrors Kurt Vonnegut's general works. So Cat's Cradle, I think, is one of my favorite books because it takes these random concepts that we've associated to have some meaning in our everyday lives, things like our nationality and our loyalty, and just generally where we belong, and Vonnegut takes those things and utterly rips them to shreds. He says, this is truly random, these connections that we've made, and they're no more than simple human constructs that we use to get by in our daily lives. Aria of Sorrow captures this really nicely, I think, when you see the purple and yellow and orange aesthetic of Legion's room, and you can kind of hear the somber tones of the dead bodies and zombies as they walk towards Legion and kind of absorb themselves and coalesce into this really big ball of human suffering and flesh and pain. And this sort of gruesome motif is, I think, one, an excellent kind of motif to show off in Dracula's castle, which has these feelings of haunting despair within it. But even more than that, it's just nice to see how this hopeless, bleak world of Vonnegut's kind of mirrors itself in Aria of Sorrow and kind of build off those perceptions to create more visual, more interesting renditions of that work. Wow, that thing looked kind of like a blue elephant. Alright, I got Malphus again, which allows me to double jump. Whoop-dee-doo. And if I come through here, there should be another ability soul, but I'm not really sure how this randomizer is programmed. Perhaps it might not even give me that. Okay, Succubus, very nice. So this is one of the 3 souls I was talking about that I need to actually beat the game. One of them being Flame Demon, which I was talking about earlier, one of them being Succubus, and one of them being Story Soul Giant Bat, which I will gain in actually the very next chronological area. So, we're definitely getting to the list of required souls here. I hope I did the Vanilla Soul checkmark in the box there. That soul statue where I got Succubus is actually really remarkable, and I kind of wanted to explain why, because it's important to note that I'm trying to get the best ending in Aria of Sorrow, so I need to satisfy the following criteria in order to actually make that happen. So I need 3 souls: Flame Demon, Giant Bat, and Succubus. Succubus was the soul that I got from that candle just now. Aria of Sorrow actually doesn't mandate you finishing the underground cemetery. It's a totally optional area, but it's still important that I did it here because it gave me a soul statue that I need to actually beat the game and get the best ending. So the fact that the randomizer actually encodes this location to be useful and to be relevant in finishing the game, rather than just being some optional area where you can defeat a mini-boss, that's pretty interesting. I like the way this Abyssal guy on GitHub is actually making all of the game necessary rather than just certain chunks that the game developers intended. I can always go scavenging for those in-game items that give me the hints I need. Ascalon. Alright, so this is actually one of the very, very few swords that actually has a damage output that rivals the climb, or at least in pure strength anyway. The sad thing is it doesn't auto-cancel. Like, my lag doesn't immediately decease. Okay, I'm bored of this already. I'm switching to the climb. Okay, wonderful. I forgot to mention this boss here. I killed all of its exterior shell when talking about Granfalloons, so I could actually get its soul. If you don't kill all 4 of its shells and you go straight for the core, you actually won't get its soul. So that's useful to know if you're a 100% type of player. Which I personally am not, but I have collected... Okay, nice. I'm pretty impartial to that soul, but that's alright. If you're a 100% collector, then that's useful for you. I actually was in this game, but in most games I am not. For reference, the highest Pokedex number I've ever gotten is in the 50s. That's even kind of generous. I would even say 40s, if I was being more pragmatic. So that takes care of the optional underground cemetery. Grab a cup of tea. not even a cup of coffee. We're changing from American refreshments to British refreshments, I guess. Although a lot of Americans do drink tea, I'm sure. And we'll move on to the next area. This is pretty fun. So the people we saw earlier engage in questionable violence. You know, you have Graham with his impeccable suit and what is supposed to be a knife but ends up being rendered as a rectangle because this is like a 2003 GBA game. So nice work. Damn, I hate to be interrupted, he says, but he finished the action, so I don't really know what that's about. I also like how when he lowers the knife, there's actually a little tinge of red on it. Nice little touch by the developers. You know, that whole scene gets a lot funnier if you pretend that Soma is John Lennon. So when he screams Yoko, it's like Yoko breaking up the band, committing suicide. Or alternatively, Graham could be... What's that guy's name? John McCartney? There you go. Paul McCartney. I did not butcher the Beatles. I'm a Beatles fan, I swear. My plan has failed, she says. Her plan to break up the Beatles, maybe? Exactly. There's a lot of subtext in this game. Okay, wonderful. So now that Yoko Ono has broken up the band, we can head to one of the most exciting endgame locations, the arena. This place is so scary. One, because it is one of the final locations in the game. Two, because I sequence break here, and all the enemies kill me when I have like 2 potions to my name. And 3, these beam skeletons. They hit fast and they hit hard. This must be how pinatas feel when kids go onto them, right? Did you see that? That was like 5 seconds. And it did literally 100 damage. Of course, I'm gaining that back slowly with Succubus, but that's alright. The soul I have equipped is Succubus, by the way, so that's what's giving me the plus 5 HP as a passive boost. Alright. I suppose it's not really prudent to compare or to complain about the climb because it's just so ridiculously broken in range, quickness, and general oomph. But it doesn't have a lot of... Oh, it does have a lot of horizontal displacement. I was going to complain about that and say I couldn't knock out that beam skeleton, but that just might be my, shall we say, discomfort with getting up close to these guys. Alright, awesome. I'm gonna take a risk and come up here so I can show off these rooms. So one of these rooms is like some guy from Greece designed it, right? Because there are a lot of minotaurs inside. And they lead to a treasure. The kind of scary thing about these red minotaurs is one, they do 110 damage a pop, that's scary, and two, the fact that I don't have my usual backdash ability really makes those guys hard. So typically, one of the very first abilities you earn, the very first actually I think, is called Gravekeeper. So it lets you dash backwards pretty quickly. It may not have priority against any attack, but it is pretty high up there. You can rely on it maybe 8 or 9 times out of 10. Hey, there's Flame Demon. Alright, so I've actually got all the power-ups I need to actually beat the game. Or I will through the story. So, because I don't have that backdash ability, that's what makes beating these guys hard. Because typically what you do is, and I'll display this against an enemy that isn't as aerodynamic as the werewolf, is that you just hack away at the Minotaur, 1, 2, 3, dash back, 1, 2, 3, and then you somehow get out of the range of the axe. So it does look a little more pretty and a little less aerodynamic when I have my backdash, but my many hours of playing Melee have actually given me the space and tools to make the most of that interaction. So this is one of the items I was talking about, where you look at it and you get a guess for what soul you need. So Ancient Book 1, let's go ahead and take a look at it. The first spirit is a demon from Hellfires. So that matches up pretty well with this soul. And indeed, it is that soul. Also, one thing that cracks me up is you've got fire here, and you apply fire to that, and it breaks. Aria of Sorrow has some questionable physics, that's for sure. Or I suppose if you smother fire, that might be another thing altogether, but I like bashing the internal logic of the games I like. It's just part of the experience, part of the pleasure. Okay. Gonna sneak past this guy with my Black Panther skills. And go ahead and make it to a very close save room that I'm getting to. Alright. Cool. So this is a brief respite, one of the only save rooms in the arena. So it's always nice to get my progress recovered there. So these rooms are supposed to be trial rooms. If you go in them, there's a very high chance you will die, but there's also some pretty cool stuff that you can get. Also, these lubricants are kind of like what I was talking about earlier, because they look just the same as Cognazos. They don't have the curse ability, which means you actually keep whatever MP you have after they hit you, but it does mean that they hit harder. Alright, so this Wrecking Ball is a very slow and tedious process. Probably gonna end up speeding this up and putting like some Looney Tunes music to it or whatever. But basically, after you break this, it gives you a nice item. And because I'm very curious, I'm interested to know what this randomizer is actually going to give me. And you get spikes. Wonderful. Also, I like how the spikes are tinged with red even before you come in the first time. Just like, yep, you're not the first person to have come to the arena, but you are the first person to beat it and beat the boss in it. Or I guess Dracula could have beaten it when he colonized his castle. Which, you know, they could make a game on that and I'd buy it, right? They could say, how did Dracula use industrialization and even make his castle, right? Because we've seen the many, many commodities that Dracula puts in here, right? He's got a dance hall, he's got a place to just chill in, he's got an active sewage system, he's got an arena where people can fight for his entertainment. I mean, this guy has got money, because he's got everything, right? Leorio from Hunter x Hunter would say, man, this guy's got everything. Because he has a lot of money, to clarify. And this room is very scary and very tedious. It's tedious because this platform forces you to make a certain amount of movements in a certain amount of time, and you actually have to perform them in such a manner that the game actually registers your inputs quickly enough. You also can't fall off the platform while you do this, so you may be hugging the very corners of the platform for dear life. Wow, I must be getting better at this, because I usually never make it to this point. Wow, first try. I've heard of the LP Curse, but I haven't heard of the LP Blessing? I suppose would be the counterpoint to that. Okay, looks like my attempt was a little too hasty there, but that's alright. Okay. At this point, I've made it through the spikes, so I can just get through here pretty nicely. Alrighty. This next boss is kind of tough, and I don't want to abuse too many potions, so I'm going to go ahead and save quite before it. And while I'm saving, I'd actually kind of like to continue talking about how Dracula renovates his castle, right? I mean, what does he do? Does he hire an architect and be like, alright, so I want this room, and I want a room to relax in, and I want a room to listen to the music of the souls of the damned, right? Like, does he sit down with some central planning office and actually think it out? Or does he just give free rein to the architect and be like, yeah, you know, make sure there are rooms where I can torture people, and also where people can die, and, you know, the creative liberties are up to you. I don't really know how that works. Anyway, so this boss is one of my favorites as I'm going through the game organically, and one of my least favorites in boss rush mode. Balore is just brutal, especially if you sequence break, which I often do. So he's got a couple fairly vanilla moves. He'll do the weird thing with his fists where he tries to hit you, and the best thing to do is really just stay in the middle, because if you go out to the side, he just whacks you. Okay, the one time I want him to whack me, he actually doesn't, but that's alright. I'm used to NPCs not exactly working the way I'd like them to. Also, another really cool thing about the Climb Salish is the fact that you actually get a double hit from it. I got +5 and +5. One cool thing about this fire, too, that I want to kind of spit out, that's not a rap joke, by the way, that I want to kind of spit out while the flames are going on, is that the hitbox is very, very small. Only, like, the bottom half actually damages you. Okay, Balore give me Black Panther as well. I don't really know what I need it for. Dawn of Sorrow has a mechanic, actually, where... so that didn't give me Giant Bat. Interesting. So I'm gonna need to look for that. Dawn of Sorrow has a mechanic, and this is just Jay talking to you, so I'm gonna skip it, is that you can actually meld souls together with weapons to make even better weapons, or even better souls. Actually, scratch that. You can only make better weapons. But the point is, there is no such synergy in Aria of Sorrow, maybe because Yoko Ono is dead. Or at the very least, knifed, rather than setting up shop, but that's quite alright. Not that I advocate knifing people. I just want to make that clear. And I am going to see if there's anything here I want to buy. Yeah, she's fine. She just broke up the Beatles. But I do want to raise money to get that Soul Eater ring, so it's not too big of a deal. I'll sell the Lance, I need the Lance. And I'll also sell the Ascalon because it doesn't kind of L cancel. Sell the Hammer. And I'll sell the Vijaya, that's fine. Then I'll sell the Sparkly Rahab Sword. And I still don't have enough, but that's quite okay. Alright, I would like to buy a Dreus. Or perhaps not, because that is a lot of money. I do want to buy a handgun. Because it is a lot of fun to go around this very Dracula Castle-esque 1700s vibe and shoot a gun. Let's go talk to Mina. Oh wow, she actually says Okairi, like welcome in Japanese. This is pretty funny. So typically if you press A, characters will interact with you. Or maybe you press up, I don't know. So maybe I pressed up and then... Okay, I'm not really sure how this works. Okay, I didn't shoot. Someone just shoots his pistol. And he's like, well, she appears to be asleep because a gunshot right next to her face didn't do anything to rouse her. So now that I've beaten Balore, cleaned up the arena, and generally done everything I need to do to clean up the final chunk of the game, I think this is a pretty great place to stop for this episode. So that's pretty much it. If you liked this video, maybe consider liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, all that good stuff. I'm pretty sure I actually got it now, and in the right order too, so that's pretty impressive. If you didn't like the video, maybe consider leaving a comment letting me know, hey, I'd like more souls, or I'd like better soul variety, or I'd like a better explanation of the bosses, whatever it is. I always like getting feedback. That's pretty much it. Peace.